Hey, Steve Saretsky here. I wanted to put together a video. Obviously, there's always a blog post that goes with this video. So I put out a post the other day. Obviously, seemed to pick up some steam. Seemed to get very debated, very hot topic. The post is going to be in the description below. It's titled "Whose Bubble Is It Anyways?" Basically, just talking about various levels of government. And really who's responsible. I mean, obviously everybody wants to point a finger at something, whether that's low supply, governments are not helping to allow people to build, or that's simply no action on foreign buyers, or central banks really just pumping up the market. It starts really at federal level. I mean, obviously Trudeau kind of came in handcuffed. He kind of got past the hot potato. And you have to look at it. I mean, what is the Canadian economy standing on right now? The commodity prices, they suck. There's anemic growth, anemic GDP growth, and so real estate is the main driver. Vancouver and Toronto are the two housing markets that are really helping propel this economy forward, basically keeping it up. The fire sector made up 20% of Canadian GDP in 2015. I imagine that's probably even higher in 2016. So the fire industry is the finance, insurance, and real estate sector. So this plays a huge part. This is a staggering stat alone, is that home ownership transaction costs. So homeowner transaction cost represented nearly 21% of total GDP growth since 2014. So basically 21% of our GDP, Canadian GDP growth, is from real estate transaction costs. So that's property transfer taxes, commissions, etc. So that kind of tells you all right there. So why doesn't the federal government necessarily intervene? That's why, because they really can't. If they intervene into real estate, there's just not enough left in the Canadian economy to keep it up. You go down to the provincial level. Obviously, you had Christy Clark, pulling the trigger after years of not doing anything under public scrutiny. With an upcoming election, pulls the lever, 15% foreign buyers tax. Of course, it sends the market into a tailspin. Pulls the other lever to try to balance the market in the form of first-time buyer loans. As we can see now, maybe not entirely predicated on the first-time buyer loans, but the condo market is still doing very well. Certainly, adding more stimulus to it is not going to help, and it's a juggling act, right? She cools the market, the detached condos are starting to cool, etc. It's cooling too much. Heading into an election, nobody wants to be responsible for bursting the bubble. Pulls the other lever, stimulus. There it is. It's a fine balancing act. If you want to look at the city, property assessments are up 50%. Year over year. That's going to be more tax for local governments as well. So they can talk about as much as they're trying to help and cool prices, but at the end of the day, you have to think about all the revenue that's generated from real estate. So there's really no incentive. Nobody wants to be responsible for bursting the great Canadian real estate bubble, as I like to call it. And that kind of leads into another thing, is a lot of feedback. So I get lots of people, a lot of realtors especially go, what's your angle? I don't get it. You're talking about a bubble. You're selling real estate. I just call it as it is. There's no angle. I think that this is probably one of the most fascinating times to be alive. You may never see a market function like this in terms of it going up, volatility. I think it's a 15% foreign buyers tax comes in. Globally, looking at what's going on, I think it's so fascinating. So I just document it. That's if you want to buy or if you want to sell, everybody makes their own decisions, and then people want to debate. Is it a bubble? Is it not a bubble? It all comes down to it's in the eye of the beholder. I don't think there is a right or a wrong. Everybody has a different perspective and a different view on the world. And so, obviously from watching these videos, you guys know that I'm not I'm quite bearish on the market, in the short term. And I'm okay calling it that's my belief. I think it's a bubble. There's reasons for that. Obviously, I can give you one, straight up fact is Richmond detached houses have climbed 80% in the last 3 years. To me, I can't think of anything that returns an ROI like that, and it doesn't see a significant correction. 80% in 3 years, that's not normal healthy growth. At some point there will be, I don't know when or how much. I don't necessarily advise people to time the market, but in my opinion, that is a symptom, that is a sign of an unhealthy market. Call it a bubble, call it whatever you want. 80% in 3 years. I mean, I can go on and on. West Vancouver, I think it was around 65% over the last 2.5 years. I think Vancouver condos are up 50% over the last 2 years. I mean, none of that is normal, healthy growth. So if you ask me, do I think is it a bubble? I think a lot of that dictates very unhealthy behavior. I mean, you can call it what it want. It's been a 15-year bull market where prices have basically only gone up. So I mean, there's that counter argument too. I get that, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I've seen unhealthy behavior. Being in multiple offers over the last 2 years. Particularly last spring, last summer. People are bidding up a couple $100,000 over ask, and that's, to me, that's just not normal behavior, where you go in and you get 10, 12, 15 offers on a home, and someone decides, maybe the home, if you look at all the comparables, the home's worth, $900,000. If some guy just says, no, I don't care, I'm competing with 10 other people, I've already been in a couple offers, I'm tired of this, I'm just going to throw some money at it, and even though everything shows you that the home's worth 900, I'm going to pay 1.1. And there's nothing you can do about that. You just lose the multiple offer. But then that 1.1, it sets a new precedent in the area. So then your neighbor says, when I'm going to sell for 1.1. That's what I want. And everyone's always looking at the latest sale for a comparison. And so I think that you have this unhealthy behavior. I mean, you can go look at Toronto right now. Where it's all over the news. Houses are being sold for $1 million over asking price. That's just not normal behavior. That's not normal activity. That's symptoms of euphoria, a fear of missing out. I see it all the time with maybe parents of kids, and even other realtors. Just get in. Well, yes, just get in, but at what cost? Okay, so everybody has a different investing strategy. Maybe for some it's not even investing. Maybe it's just, it's your principal residence. You gotta live somewhere. I get that. And that's everybody's personal decision. So, some people will say, well, it makes financially more sense to rent. There's no right or wrong. If somebody feels today that there's value and you want to buy, then by all means go ahead and buy. If you think that there is absolutely zero value, this is a bubble just waiting to burst at the seams, and you prefer to rent, that's in the eye of the beholder. And I don't think there is a right or a wrong. I don't think anyone is ever going to agree on it. I've talked to other realtors, other people that invest. They say don't time the market, just buy and hold long term. That's an opinion. I don't necessarily agree with that. I do think you buy and you hold long term. I don't like speculating, but I also think that if there's a speed bump and you can avoid the speed bump, then you do your best to do that. And so what I see is a market that is showing signs that is very unhealthy. As I've mentioned, some of this price growth, again, 80% in Richmond detached homes. It's basically 25% a year, and I have to get people back to this every single time. Warren Buffett's ROI, one of the second richest man in the world, I believe, his ROI per year is 20%. So my concern is that when you have everyday mom and pop who are maybe investing in their first investment condo, which we've seen a lot of, that these gains of 25% just seem to come easy, and it's just you don't do anything, you don't really do any homework, you're not really sure. Maybe you're losing a couple $100 a month because the rent doesn't cover the mortgage, but things can only go up. So you just invest this money, and it's a simple ROI. You make your 25% a year on your condo, and that's just what everybody's doing. It's just like the quick buck. And at some point, when everybody is involved in that, that it's just not normal, healthy growth. And so I advise of it. There's no angle here. I'm simply documenting. I'm providing you my thoughts, my beliefs, what I see every day from the statistics, everyday behavior and everything that I read and that I study. I have my concerns. I pass those on to you. Everybody can go and make their decision. I don't care if you want to call it a bubble or you don't want to call it a bubble. It's interesting. I'm involved in a Facebook group, and there's a lot of debate going on there. You have your bulls and your bears, and people say, okay, well, the market's heating up. Look at it. Or someone the other day said, detached sales, yes, they're down, 50% year over year. And but 2016 was a record year, and we're now returning to normal. And I think it's all in the eye of the beholder. So if you actually, this is a statistic. This is not like me just giving my opinion or from what I observe on the ground. Yeah, I think it's picking up. No, this is a stat that the sales numbers will tell you. Some people want to tell you that it's just a return to normal. The detached sales in January, and this has been a trend for the last 4 to 6 months. In January, detached sales were 34% below the 10-year average. 34% below the 10-year average. So I don't consider that a return to normal. Some people might. I don't know if I would necessarily say that's doomsday, that the bubble has burst. I think that the market is very segmented right now. You have the condo market, which in my opinion is going to keep going up in the spring. I can give you a quick glimpse right now. Yes, sales, it looks like they're down again continuously about 25 to 30% year over year, but inventory is also down close to that as well. So there's a lot I think that prices would come down, but the thing is we're not getting the inventory. Things are still selling, so basically you're having these people run into each other, and they're still bidding in multiple offers. You have the townhouse market. I think those are actually different as well. So you have Greater Vancouver, and then you have the Fraser Valley. Greater Vancouver, and I have, again, this is like everybody just takes like one stat, or they see like one sale, and they formulate an opinion on that. And so someone the other day said townhouses are making new record highs. Well, they're not. I just don't know. I don't know where these someone's trying to make up stats or something. Townhouse sales are down. They've been down about 40% year over year in Greater Vancouver. February looks like they're going to be down around 30% or so. But so sales are down 30%, but inventory is actually up about 20%. So, and that's similar to what the detached is doing. So the detached sales are way down, inventory is up year over year. Exact same thing for Greater Vancouver townhouses. Now Fraser Valley, your townhouses sales are down, but your inventory is also down. So that's kind of keeping like a little bit of a balancing act. It looks like prices have kind of leveled off. Sure, there's definitely a possibility for them to go up. We don't really know where that's going. But I'm going to include some charts in the links below as well in the bio, and then you can actually look at it. And I'm going to give you the straight link from the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, and you can look at the townhouse prices on the chart, and you can tell me which way they're pointing. So you can see that they peaked, and they're like this right So I don't know where people are coming up with this, that townhouses are setting new highs. Condos, yes, I'm still seeing condos set new highs in certain areas. It just depends on the building, on the product. Again, you can have somebody that just comes in and says, you know what, I'm going to overpay. I don't care. I just got to get in. Not my strategy. I usually advise my clients that, set your budget. If your budget's $500,000, stick to it. You don't need to go and overstretch your budget. And if I look at the comps and I say, okay, you know what, the condos should be worth $475. You're competing in multiple offers. What are you willing to go up to? Are you willing to pay a little bit more, maybe $480, $485 to win it? Do you want to go right up your budget $500? But I don't advise going up to, if the condo's worth $475, paying $50,000-$60,000 over ask. And I've seen that. I've been outbid recently, and where someone set a new record in a building, just overpaying, in my opinion, by basically the fair market value was this is what it should be worth, and someone decided to pay $50,000 over in a condo. If that's maybe the buyer's a just get in mentality, and they'll pay whatever it costs in a multiple offer. But again, that's just not my strategy for obvious reasons. I think that this market is extremely volatile right now. We don't really know where it's going to go. The detach is not doing good things, and the condos are still going. You have a lot of economists coming out now that are very, very concerned with the market. Obviously, CMHC is concerned, Bank of Canada. Everyone's talking about it. So it's not like I'm this sort of whistleblower and everyone's like, oh, like this guy's doomsday. He's telling people not to buy condos. Everyone that doesn't buy a condo in 2016 and 2017 is going to be kicking themselves. Well, everybody makes their own decision. I'm not encouraging you not to buy or not to sell. Just listen to what I have to say. Listen to what the real estate board or realtors or other realtors or I don't know, CBC or Seeking. Listen to what everybody's telling you. Listen to your parents and make your own decisions, because everybody has different viewpoints. And I'm not going to try to convince anyone that it's a bubble or you shouldn't buy or you shouldn't sell. I'm just documenting this because this is going to be a case study in the next 5 to 10 years. It's truly remarkable just watching these markets, watching some of the behavior in it day to day. And again, I just like to everything that I give you is, I try to keep it as statistical as possible. And so I always hear people like, this has been going on for months, and people are like, oh, well, the market's heating up. I had one guy say, the market's heating up. Neighbor next to me in South Surrey, detached, sold his house, multiple offer. And I'm going, okay, so you're going to extrapolate the market out of one sale. You're looking at like one, maybe two sales. You walk down the street, you see a sold sticker, and you're going, oh my God, the market is hot again. Look at the numbers. The numbers are not there. This guy was talking about South Surrey, and I can tell you right now, through the first 20 days of February, and this is the exact same trend that's been following for the last 6 months in South Surrey. Detached sales are down. This month they're down 67% right now. They've been following a trend between 50 to 65%. And I mean, and there's no turnaround there. It's the same thing, and it's funny too, because you actually look at it. This month has been 50 or 60 sales in South Surrey. I was looking through it. There was still like 6 or 7 of them that sold over asking price. So I mean that's mind blowing. Maybe that's the mentality, right? Where obviously somebody saw value and was willing to pay over ask. I personally don't understand that. Obviously we're in a buyer's market, and so sorry, specifically, let's talk about South Surrey. You're in a buyer's market. You've been in a buyer's market for about 6 months. Prices are down about 15%. Inventory's climbing. Sales are down about 50, 60, 70% year over year. And you're paying over ask, which almost is, you can almost assume that is a multiple offer. I don't know why anybody when you can, in the detached market right now, you can basically walk down the street and negotiate a lower price on almost any house. So why you would engage in a multiple offer doesn't necessarily make sense to me. You got to really love the house, or again, it's just don't care, get in, and that's fine. That's not necessarily how I encourage my clients. I like to look at it from an analytical approach. Again, I don't necessarily say time the market, but look, if you see the speed bump, can you avoid it? I think there's a lot of reasons to be cautious right now, and again, there's no angle. It's just I'm here documenting this. So check out all the stuff below. As always, you can check out my site. I got all the graphs, stats, charts. I try to keep this as balanced as possible. There is no right or wrong answer. Bubble, no bubble, call it whatever you want. Everybody has their opinions. This channel is my opinions, and I'm going to keep it that way. All right, thanks for watching.